Good Monday morning to you. I'm Pastor Roddy Chester. I'm reading from the book of Proverbs for our necessary food this morning. It says, verse 4, where no oxen are, the crib is clean, but much increase is by the strength of the ox. Now, having a clean crib might sound like a good thing to you, especially if you like a clean house, but a clean crib is not a good thing. The corn crib is where you store the feed. You store the corn. And if your crib is clean, it means that you're out of feed. You're out of food. For the ancient Israelite, when it talks about corn, it may be talking about corn, yellow corn like what we're used to, but more probably just talking about the corn of wheat or rye or barley, a grain. And, you know, for the ancient Israelite, he would have eaten that grain, he and his family, as well as traded some of that grain, as well as used that grain to feed his animals. And it says, if there's no ox, the crib is clean. Now, you might think that not having an ox is a good thing because you don't have to feed the ox. But if you don't have an ox, that means that you don't have the ability to harvest, to plant at the same rate that you could if you have an ox. And so what this is saying is, it says, with the strength of the ox is much increase. So by adding an oxen to your farm, you don't just double the amount of work that you're able to do. You probably multiply it by about 10 times, maybe even more than that. Because this oxen is huge, 1,500 to 2,000 pound animal. He is able to work all day long. He is able to pull great big loads. He's going to increase your planting ability, your plowing ability, your harvesting ability, the ability to move and transport things on your place. And so what he's teaching us here is he's teaching us a couple things. Number one, having the right tool for the job is essential to anything that you do in your life and in your business. And number two, it's costly to maintain tools. Yeah, that oxen, he eats a lot. But even though he is eating a lot, that crib's not going to be clean if he's around. You're going to feed him part of it. You're going to feed you part of it. You're going to have some to plant. You're going to have some to sell. You're going to be able to store up some for the winter. And so you've got to have the ox, or else you're going to have a clean crib. It goes that way for so many things. As you look at America, you see our Industrial Revolution figured this out and turned our country into one of the most prosperous countries in the world because of the ability to utilize tools to increase production. And it goes on to this day. In our little leather shop here, we worked by hand sewing things until we saved up enough money to purchase a big sewing machine. And, it might take 8 hours to sew a belt by hand. Now it takes about 10 minutes. And so you see the increase in production that's available. Yeah, it was expensive, and we had to save our pennies to get it. But once we got that thing, now we're able to do so much more with it so much quicker. It's like having an ox. We got to maintain it. We got to take care of it. The initial cost was expensive, but it was well worth it. There's lots of things in our life as followers of Jesus. Isn't it amazing that something that you would have to go to some economics class and that some countries still haven't figured out, and some within our own country are trying to go backwards into these things. And here it is, thousands of years ago, written for us in the Word of God. I want to close with this. It's kind of interesting. In the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, Paul uses the metaphor of an ox to talk about a preacher. And he's talking about paying your preacher. He says in verse 9 of 1 Corinthians 9, for it's written in the law of Moses, thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth the corn. Doth God take care for oxen? Or saith he it altogether for our sakes? And Paul answers his own question. For our sakes, no doubt, this is written, that he that ploweth should plow in hope, and that he that thresheth in hope should be partaker of his hope. If we have sown unto you spiritual things, is it a great thing if we shall reap your carnal things. Hey, if you want to have much increase on your farm, you need an ox. And if you want to have spiritual increase in your church, you need a preacher. And you need to take care of him. Hey, I hope you have a great day today. God bless.